I want to ask you something. When you think of gaming, what comes to mind? Do you look at it fondly and think, wow, it only gets better from here? Or do you think maybe the best years have already passed us by? What if I told you that you might be right, that gaming as we know it may have already died, and we just haven't accepted it? Now, I know that might sound dramatic, but bear with me. I'm not making this claim lightly or to sound all doom and gloom. I've been thinking about it for a while, and honestly, the more I look around, the more I feel like it may be true. Let me start by saying this. I know there's a lot of nostalgia that's usually involved when talking about gaming, and I'm no stranger to that either. But what's interesting to me is how often I hear people saying things like, gaming isn't what it used to be, or they insert any number of reasons of what ruined gaming. This sentiment seems to pop up more and more, and it's left me wondering, is this just us getting older and more jaded, or is this feeling actually growing stronger within the gaming communities? I wanted to explore this theory, so I tried to find a few key differences in the landscape that might be causing this shift in feeling, and it's left me feeling like maybe there's something to this idea. I was born in 1998, and I grew up in a household with a Nintendo 64 as my first console experience. Games like Ocarina of Time, Mario Kart 64, Star Wars Pod Racer blew me away as a kid, and I was obsessed with watching my siblings play those games. Eventually, in a few years, my family would move on to the GameCube, and since I was a little older, I could finally actually take control and play these games for myself. I remember spending days and weeks playing games like Wind Waker and a bunch of Star Wars titles, things like Rogue Squadron, Lego Star Wars, and all the way to things like Scooby-Doo, Night of 100 Frights, Tony Hawk's Underground. These were all games that still stick with me today.
Only ghost-free environments for us. Rip, roast me.
And fast forward to 2009, my older brother and I saved up enough to buy an Xbox 360. It was one of the happiest days of my life. We had saved up just enough for us to buy the console and one game each. He chose FIFA 2009, and I went with a ninja game that I had never heard of, but mostly just picked because I thought ninjas were cool. And I vividly remember the first moments I had with the opening segment to Ninja Gaiden 2. I remember thinking, this is it. We've peaked as a society. Graphics can't possibly get any better than this. And obviously, I couldn't have been more wrong in the years later. But the reason why I bring this up is because I feel like I was lucky enough to see the huge strides in graphics over the years. From Mario 64 to Odyssey, Star Wars Pod Racer to Jedi Survivor. It was like every new generation of games was a massive leap forward in technology. Don't get me wrong, games today are still stunning, but there's something about the improvements now that feel incremental. Take the PS5 Pro showcase for example. It didn't have that wow factor we used to get with each console jump. It's like we've plateaued. And that makes my first point. There's just no dramatic improvement to experience anymore. There's nothing generation defining about things anymore. Another point that I wanted to make was this idea of traditions that we used to have in gaming. For me, a defining tradition we all used to share was the practice of the midnight release. Do you remember those? Standing in line outside GameStop waiting for the latest Halo or Call of Duty release. No matter the weather, it was just about getting the game. It was about braving the elements as the rest of the world outside of our gaming culture slept. Getting to share something so anticipated with people just like you. There was something magical about those nights. Now, well, you can preload your games before lunch, and you can have it downloaded and ready to go for when that clock strikes 12, and it's so convenient. but it's just not the same. The community aspect is gone, and I think that's a big part of why things feel different.
E3. Not E3.
Going with that same train of thought, E3 used to be the highlight of the gaming year for me. I remember how exciting it was watching live coverage on G4, seeing the crowds cheer, seeing the people lined up to see what's new, and feeling like you were part of something huge. In those days, we all experienced the same things at the same time. Now, with things like Nintendo Directs or Summer Games Fest and all the different kinds of pre-recorded videos of announcements, everything just feels so disconnected. It's like we're not all in the same place anymore. And it's not just about physically attending events, because I was like 13 when E3 was at its peak. And of course that means that I never really got to go. But yeah, I still felt like I was part of something. You know, like the whole sense of community seems like it's shifted. Which drives my overall point, I think, is the evolution of community in gaming, and the evolution kind of not being for the better. Gaming has always had this reputation of being a loner's hobby, but for those of us who do play, we know that that idea couldn't be further from the truth. Gaming brought us together, whether it was trash talking in Halo or bonding over the story in games like Final Fantasy VII. We've always looked to share our experiences, our thoughts, our favorite moments with others. The rise of online gaming at first seemed like it would only make things better, connecting us with players from all over the world. But now, with Discord and party chats, a lot of us are gaming in our own curated spaces. We don't get the same sense of camaraderie. Even things like how matchmaking works have been reassembled to not work the way they used to, and it's harder to create those rivalries or friendships that happened with the same group of people getting matched together just through luck. Things have somehow ended up in a lonelier place than I think people expected them to. This next point is a bit of a tricky one. So, my idea is there's just so many games, and don't get me wrong, it's not a bad thing. We have more options than ever, which is amazing. But it also means that the shared experiences are fewer. I consider myself pretty dialed into the gaming world, but recently I was talking to a coworker about games, and I thought to myself, cool, I haven't made any friends here at work, but here's my chance to connect with someone over a common interest. So I asked him what kind of games he was into at the moment, and he said Risk of Rain 2. And I had to lament that I had never heard of it before, and the more we shared about each other, the more we realized that, funnily enough, our common interest has nothing in common at all. To me, it feels like this wasn't the case when I was growing up. It felt like most of the time that whenever you would bring up gaming to others, everyone was experiencing the same things around the same time. You know, having options is awesome and undoubtedly great for the industry and for gamers to find the exact game that ticks all of their unique boxes that they want ticked. But in a way, it's made us more fragmented as a community. Now, of course, the big bad villain in this story undoubtedly has to be the rise of live service games. And no, I'm not just talking about Fortnite or just blaming Fortnite for this, but obviously it is a part of it. The problem really stems from the corporate-driven push for live service games. If you go back and play older games, you can feel the difference in their design. Developers used to care about making a fun game that people could get lost to and talk to other people, and the way that you would talk to other people about your favorite games meant that there would be more people willing to give it a chance and to go out and buy it and to maybe look for the sequel that was coming out in the near future. Now a lot of games are designed to keep you spending money after the point of release to appease the companies and their shareholders. The worst part about it is that it's so painfully obvious when companies are more focused on exploiting their players with pay-to-win schemes or cosmetics than actually creating enjoyable crafted experiences. Don't get me wrong, it's not all bad. There are obviously still developers out there who create amazing, passion-driven games, from developers like From Software, the Team Asobi with Astrobot, Larian with Baldur's Gate. But the industry, in some ways, is gone, and maybe we need to accept that. There's a lot that's changed, and I think it's worth recognizing that we're living in a different era of gaming now. But to the people, the true people and minds behind creating games for the love of it, not the wallet-driven corporate fiends in charge of ruining things in seek of their greed, I want to say thank you. You are the ones keeping the spirit of gaming truly alive. And I hope that the industry hasn't peaked. I hope that things improve the way that we thought that they would from the very beginning, and that they never stop improving. I just want to say thank you for listening, thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this. Might just be nostalgic, or is there something more real to this argument? Whatever your take, consider leaving a comment. This is my first YouTube video, so I would definitely love to talk about it and see what you all think as well. Thank you.